everyone. My name is Emmanuel Moses, and I made this website about microcontrollers. So the way I made my website was I went to Google Sites and I used their insert tab to basically insert and embed my photos, my text, and all my information that I needed to create this website. Comparing it to HTML and CSS, I would say that Google Sites is much more simpler and user-friendly compared to HTML and CSS, just because HTML you have to type out everything you want, but Google Sites makes it easier to input your information. Anyway, so to publish or to make my website, I had to, first of all, go to Google Sites, make everything inside, and then publish it and store it under the domain name sites.google.com. Alright, so basically this is my homepage, and this is prompt A. It's basically talking about microcontrollers and what they are. So a microcontroller is a mini programmable motherboard of an electrical device, and it allows for complex functions while saving space. And this is just Britannica's definition of what a microcontroller is, or a microprocessor. Alright, so this is just a short video about microprocessors, microcontrollers, how they work, what they do, and how they're implemented in society. And this is made by Adeptus Academy, so you can click this link or you can click the video and it'll take you to the area. Can I please scroll down? Sure. Okay, so this is prompt B, and it basically talks about the benefits and harmful effects of microcontrollers. So since microcontrollers act as a mini CPU, they can be used in mini tiny spaces, but also do complex functions. So they save space, but at the same time, because of how tiny they are, you need really complex components to actually make it work, so it makes it pricey. And to some companies, they do not want to use that because it can be expensive, but at the same time, because of how little it is, it also helps multiple companies who want to use their inventions in small areas, which could include health and other areas where they would enter the bloodstream, and instead of using a gigantic creation, they would use something small. So that's where microcontrollers go. And this is just a graph I made on Google Sheets. It just shows how, from my survey data, it just shows where microcontrollers are most impactful in people's lives and where they see the use in it the most. Oops. Okay. Sorry. Alright, so this is prompt C, and it's just talking about the impact of microcontrollers on economy and culture and society. This graph, I got it from Google's advanced search, and it just basically shows where microcontrollers are being used right now. This is 2023, so it shows where they're used, and we can see that it's used mostly in automotive and embedded systems. Now, they do have a major impact on society, as you can see here. They're great in cars, and they are used in many cars actually that we drive today. They help the safety features that make sure we're all safe when we're driving on the road. And they also help health, because they are what make all those tiny machines that you see in the health sector actually work and process without us human beings having to do all that work. Okay, let's go ahead. So the field that I said that it had a great impact on was health, because it's now coming up in health and you can actually see what it does in health. For example, this is a blood sugar monitor, and a microcontroller is in this thing. It's very small compared. If you see a blood sugar monitor, it's a very tiny device, and there's a microcontroller in this tiny device that makes it measure the sugar levels. Now, if a human being wants to do this, it'll take 1 to 2 hours, but a blood sugar level monitor can do it in a minute or so. So this is just the survey I used to gather all my information about the impact of microcontrollers. It has scales and stuff like that. Can you please scroll down? And this is my infographic. So my topic was to what extent does awareness of microcontrollers impact a person's life? Because to an extent, it does impact a person's life because they know what it is, so they know how it's being used. But if you don't know what it is, you don't know how it's being used in your life. This is just it. And this is the best graph I chose from my Google Sheets that shows, based on impact, based on awareness, how people see how beneficial microcontrollers are to them. So you can see it over here. So anyway, so this is just how to use a microcontroller, and they have input and output pins which make them more accessible to multiple parts on a circuit. They also have a USB port or any other port so that a person can program the microcontroller. And another benefit about microcontrollers is that they're reprogrammable. So instead of you having to buy a new one, if you want to implement it into a system, you just reprogram it so that it can do what you want it to do. And this is just a separate video about microcontrollers and how they complete their purposes. So microcontrollers work with softwares and hardwares, so they're both hardware and software. To use a microcontroller, you have to learn some programming language so that you can actually make it do what you want it to do. And then the hardware aspects are just the pins so that it can work with other hardware components. Okay. So yeah, this is just my references page. I think the most influential one would be these two, the one by BBC. So this one, it just talks about what they are, how they're used, their impact. Can we go to the page, please? And then this one right here. Yeah, so this one gave me the definition, gave me where it's used, how it's used, the fields it's used in. So this was one of my most influential ones. All right, so thank you for listening to my presentation.